Hello, welcome to the Sensory Garden Walk at the Matheson Memorial Library. My name is Lisa Selge and I'm the library director here. I want to start out with a couple of thank yous. First, I would like to thank the Walworth County Master Gardeners Association for their grant, and also Thrivent Action Teams for their grant, which helped us make some improvements in the garden this year. And I also want to thank you for joining us tonight for the garden walk. This presentation is geared for all ages, so children and adult, and we hope that you come back and take the walk again. One of our staff members, Terry, made a wonderful, colorful guide that you can pick up at the desk. So the library is open now. If you want to come in and ask at the desk for the garden guide, you can bring this out and follow along and see the plants again and get a close-up. So what is a sensory garden? You can think about how you might answer that. I would say that we're going to use all 5 of our senses to experience the garden here today. And the 5 senses are seeing, touching, smelling, hearing, and tasting. So those are the 5 we're going to discuss. I'll mainly focus on those first 3. And the first plant that I want to talk about is our smoke bush. This is the very colorful plant in back. It is a tall, deciduous shrub, which means it does lose its leaves over the fall and winter. And if you come in the winter time, you'll just see the bare branches, but in the spring, it gets these very colorful, kind of reddish, I don't know, purplish, pinkish, smoky plumes, and it's called a smoke bush. It likes the sun. It grows to be about 10 to 15 feet tall. We also have some tall grasses here. If you talk about your sense of hearing, you might wonder what you can hear in the garden. I would say many gardens are more secluded or quiet, but this happens to be located in downtown Elkhorn at a very busy intersection. So you might hear a lot of traffic sounds while we're filming this, but you can also hear, if you're quiet, you can hear other things. You might hear insects. You might hear bees buzzing or birds chirping. You could hear the sound that the wind makes in the grasses. Or trucks. So there's lots of things you can hear in the garden. Over here we have another very tall native perennial. This is Pye Weed. So I love this plant. It's a great pollinator. The bees and the birds love it. Or, bees and butterflies, I should say. And then pretty soon we'll have this flower blooming. It's a very tall yellow flower that comes out pretty soon. It's a fall sunflower. And then we also have a pine tree here. This is a limber pine. And this stays green all winter. You might want to touch this plant or this tree, because if you're not sure if the needles are sharp or soft, you can feel that they're very soft. So that's a nice pine tree we have. And then we'll walk around the front of the wall here and look at some more colorful plants. When we look down the sidewalk, you can see lots of purple and orange. So we have some salvia here. And then the orange plant is Asclepias or butterfly weed. Now you might want to look and see if you can see any butterflies on this orange plant, because they do love it. The silver plant on the bottom is Artemisia. That is a very contrasting color with the silver leaves. And we've got several of those along the front. This is allium or chives. It's done blooming now, but this is actually edible. You could pick these off and put them in a salad. They taste like onion. So we'll keep walking over here. Now under the tree here, we planted some lavender. This is one that you want to get close and touch. And be gentle when you touch those leaves and smell. It really does smell like lavender, and hopefully that will grow well this summer. We just planted it, but I'm afraid it might not have enough sun, but it really does smell like lavender. It smells good. And then over here, if we keep walking, we can see that we planted sunflowers in this corner of the wall, and those will also get very tall. And then here, right in front of the raised bed, we have a plant called Prairie Smoke. Now that's also kind of done blooming, but if you look at the blooms here, you can see how feathery they are. And it does look like smoke on the prairie. So that's called Prairie Smoke. And then we've reached our vegetable beds in the garden, and I'm going to turn this over to Danielle.
Hi, I'm Danielle. Welcome to the library vegetable garden. You might see me inside the library as part of the circulation team, but I'm here today because I love vegetable gardens. So my favorite thing about the vegetable garden today on our tour is that it's the only place in the library that you can experience all 5 senses. So what are those? We're going to start with hearing today. So as you've been hearing, we're on a busy road, so you're going to hear some traffic, but you're also going to hear the rustling of the leaves through all of the plants. And if you listen really closely, you're going to hear bugs and birds. It's all very interesting. Next, we're going to talk about smell. So there's a lot of things to smell here in the garden. A fun one, if you want to come with your family, it would be to see if you could come and identify all of the different herbs we have here in the garden by smell. So here we have some lemon verbena, and then we have some basil and some basil in the pots. Over on this side, we have some feathery dill. Another thing we can smell is, did you know that tomato plants have their own special smell? And it's actually really exciting, especially in May when we're planting, to smell that smell, because that means summer to me. So the last thing, and a really interesting thing to smell in our garden, is dirt, especially when it's wet. Dirt has a really specific, exciting smell. Okay, so the next one we're going to talk about today is touch, because a vegetable garden is very tactile. Let's start with cucumbers, because they're right here. A cucumber, if you believe it or not, has a really spiky leaf. Did you know that brand new cucumbers are actually really spiky? Isn't that fun? Okay, the next one we can talk about are peppers. Peppers have these smooth, waxy leaves that are really fun to touch, and every pepper is going to be a little bit different, so you can come and compare them. We have some more over in the raised bed. The last one is another dill plant. This dill plant has a really neat feathery texture that we can touch. Okay, and the next one we're going to talk about today is sight. Now that's a very exciting thing in the garden because things are always changing. So first thing we're going to look at is color. So let's take a look at this chard. Can you see the red veins in the leaf? That's a ruby red chard. And this one is a purple kohlrabi. Look at that, how purple those stems are. And when the bulb forms on the bottom of the kohlrabi, that'll be bright purple too. Isn't that neat? Okay, so the next thing you can see, use your eyes to see here at the garden, is very exciting and special to right now. So in the garden today, we actually have some eastern black swallowtail caterpillars right in there. And that's so interesting because you might know that Miss Terry every year plants milkweed for monarch butterflies and raises them in the library. But these guys are out here too, and they're often confused because they look a lot alike. So the monarch caterpillar always has 3 stripes, so you can tell the difference. They're black, yellow, and white, and they're never different. The swallowtail caterpillar has yellow spots, and that's so different, isn't it? Isn't he neat? Another way you can tell them apart is what they eat, because it's very specific. So you might know that monarch caterpillars only ever eat milkweed plants. Well, these guys only ever eat dill, fennel, or parsley. So if you have these guys, they may be destroying your dill. The final thing, and one of the things that I love about a vegetable garden, is using my eyes to see how it changes. Every plant in a vegetable garden goes through its whole life cycle every single year. So we start with a seed, like over here with the beets. These started as seeds, and they made a plant, and then they're gonna make a bulb, and then we're gonna eat them. So you see things grow, and it's so exciting. So the things you might be seeing now, more things, are our spinach is going to seed. So it's completing its life cycle. You see that there? Also over here, we have our onions are putting out flowers. Aren't those neat? They're very like your aliens at home. So all those things will change. We'll snap off those flowers, and the onion plants will form bulbs. Okay, so the very last thing we're going to talk about today is the very exciting taste element of the garden. Almost every single thing in this garden, almost, I tell you, is meant to eat, which is so exciting. So right now we have these really pretty purple, crunchy purple snow peas, and they're so good. Okay, we also have in the garden some little gem romaine lettuce, and once we thin these out, they'll form little 6-inch romaine heads. They're very cute. Okay, pretty soon we're gonna start seeing beans. If we can stretch way over here, we have a bean trellis. So it's gonna start growing and make a teepee, and then we're gonna get to eat yummy beans. And then pretty soon we'll see our tomatoes, and they'll turn red. So, okay, we're gonna come over to the cucumber now to keep talking about taste. Do you see this pretty yellow flower here at the base of this vine? If you look really closely, you'll see a little baby cucumber. And when it gets bigger, you're gonna use your mouth to taste it. It's gonna be crunchy and delicious. If you come on over here, you can see a pepper plant. And look, there's a pepper on it already. So that pepper is gonna keep growing, it's gonna get big, and you're gonna know it's ripe because it's gonna turn red, and that's also gonna be crunchy and delicious. Right here we've got a bunch of tomato plants, and you can look in close and see the little yellow flowers, and as long as they get pollinated, each of those flowers is gonna become a juicy tomato. If we come all the way over here, we have some of our fall vegetables. Here we have some Brussels sprouts that look really nice, and they look like a big hedge today. But if you move back their fronds, you can see the little bulbs starting to grow. And after the first frost, we'll pull those off, and those will be crunchy and delicious brassicas. Okay, so with that, I'll send it over to Lisa.
Okay, great. Before we leave the vegetable beds, I wanted to highlight a couple of a shrub and a tree in particular. This shrub is on our garden guide. It's a 9-bark shrub, and there is a kind that is green, but this is the one with the burgundy flowers, so you can see how colorful it is, and it has red. It's flowering right now with red flowers, so that's kind of a unique shrub. And then we also have a tree in the corner here that this was planted by the Elkhorn Garden Club back in the day when Elkhorn had a garden club. So shout out to them. It's still growing and doing well here in the corner. This raised bed is our perennial bed. All of these plants are perennials, so they came back this year, and we had to do very little work, just some weeding. So those are all perennials, and then we'll take a look over here under the tree and look at some herbs. We have a couple in pots. The first pot is basil, and this is a great plant to use in cooking. This is one we'd like to share with you, so if you're interested in getting some, especially when the tomatoes are ripe, this is a great herb to use in salads and with tomatoes. And be sure to touch this one and smell it, because basil smells great. And the pot over here is mint. This is another one you're going to want to touch the leaves, just rub them with your fingertips and smell. Now this can be used in lots of refreshing drinks. You can put it in lemonade or tea and things like that. So that's a great herb. Over here we have some new plantings this year, Russian sage and some coneflowers. Some different grasses. We've got more Pye Weed that we hope are gonna grow tall enough to cover the electrical boxes. One of the plants in the corner is called Rattlesnake Master. So that's gonna grow very tall as well and have some unique buds. And then the last of our herbs are here. This is thyme, and it's another one that smells good, and this one is lemon thyme, so it does have a lemony taste or smell, and that's good to use in different dishes when you're cooking. And this one is sage. That's a unique herb as well. The cosmos that we planted is not looking too great now. It's pretty dry. This one is a chocolate cosmos. Now usually cosmos have a more pastel flowers and grow quite tall. I think it's just been too dry and we need to get watering out here some more. But this variety is chocolate, and it does supposed to smell like chocolate. So it does if you smell the leaves. This last grass I want to mention is one that maybe I shouldn't have planted, but I saw it at the plant sale, and it's fiber optic grass. And I thought it was unique and would look really cool in the sensory garden because it has very unique leaves, but it is poisonous, so make sure if you're walking your dog they don't take a bite out of that plant. And it also, I found out, it likes swampy, wet ground, which this is not. So that's not doing so great. But anyway, that's the last of the herbs we have planted here. And then we'll walk along the south side of the building here and look at our butterfly garden. So this door goes into the story room, so you might be familiar with that part of the library. We planted this little bed a few years ago, and they're all native pollinator plants. So there's some butterfly weed in here. In the back we have agastache. This is milkweed, so this is one that the monarch butterflies eat. There's a butterfly bush in here. And then we also have some parsley and grasses. There's some monarda or bee balm right there. And we'll just follow along here and look. The daisies are blooming, so those are very pretty right now. The black-eyed Susans are looking kind of dry, even though I watered them yesterday. We need to water them again. We're hoping for rain. We've got some really pretty grass here. And this taller bush in the back is an elderberry bush. That has a lot of healing properties. And the leaves are very, kind of a, you can see they're lemon green, kind of a lime green color. Yellowish green, I should say. And then in the front we have some blue salvia that's blooming, and grasses behind it. And the shrubs in the middle here are dogwood. Those will have red branches, so in the winter time when the leaves are all gone, you'll just see the branches that are red that remain over the winter time and look nice in the snow. So this tall flower is Beatrice, which is also very soft. If you want to touch that one, that's a good one to feel. And we'll keep going. Down here on the end, we have more black-eyed Susans under this serviceberry bush and more butterfly weed. There's some dill that popped up, volunteer. That happens a lot in the garden. You don't actually plant it, but it comes on its own accord. Now we've rounded the corner, so we're on the corner of Court Street and Washington Street behind the library. And this flower bed by our staff entrance is one that the master gardeners have maintained for many years. So these are all perennials in here. There's a lot of coneflower and Queen Anne's lace. And one of my favorite native shrubs is the Baptisia. And then we have, on each side of the stairs, we have a popcorn bush. So this one right here is cassia, or a popcorn bush, and believe it or not, it smells like buttered popcorn. So you're definitely going to want to check that out. There's one here and one on the other side of the steps. And also on each side of the steps in the pots, we have an aloe vera plant and a dragonfly on it. But anyway, this is a very healing plant. If you have a cut or burn, you can break off the leaf and put it on that, and it's very soothing. Or a sunburn, something like that. These are really great plants to have in your home. Okay, and then to conclude, I just wanted to point out the lamb's ears that are growing here. This is definitely one you want to touch. It's not one that smells good, but if you've ever been on a farm or even a petting zoo where you were able to touch a lamb, you know where this plant got its name. So, because it is very soft and it feels like lamb's ears. And hiding here under the daisies is our other popcorn bush. So that's the one you want to definitely smell. And then we had to divide some of the lamb's ears. So we have some that we put in pots. If you're interested in trying to grow any of these plants, there's many that we divide, especially in the springtime. And if you want to make a small donation, we would appreciate it, but you can take some of these plants home with you and try to grow them at your house.
And if you like gardening and plants as much as I do, we could always use more volunteers here at the library. So if you'd like to come and join us, let us know. We have garden work days, and we would just really like to get to know you.
Thanks for joining us tonight. Bye.
Bye.